Demons Discuss, Take 6, the one with the most exquisite creatures.
Welcome to Demons Discuss, the unofficial podcast about the All Souls universe and the topics that orbit it. We are the Demons, also your hosts, Angela, Jean, and Valerie. I am Valerie, and with me is Jean and Angela. Hi, guys.
Hi, everybody.
Hey there.
And good whatever time of the day it is for you guys when you decide to hit play. Today, we are talking about demons, a.k.a. the most exquisite creatures. Let's run right into emails, I think. We sent out an email to our discussers, and we're going to run around the table because we asked them what their thoughts were about demons. So, Angela, we're going to start with you.
Okay, my email is from Alyssa. She says, demons are really interesting to me as creatures in the All Souls Trilogy, as they are so significantly different than any other versions of demons I've come across in pop culture. The three that I'm most familiar with are the demons in Supernatural, Buffy and Angel, and in Kelly Armstrong's Women of the Otherworld series. In all those series, demons are from hell and are usually evil and tend to have magical powers stemming from their connection to the devil. Kelly Armstrong's series is unique in that her half-demons have one specific power like telekinesis, depending on what other type of demon their father was, kind of like the X-Men. I think I was expecting something similar with Deb's demons, for them to have some sort of supernatural gift in some way. It was certainly new to me to not only have these creatures be far from evil, but not even have supernatural origin at all, so to speak, seeing as they have human parents.
Shout out, Alyssa. Thank you.
Mine's from Michelle. In Adao, I love the passage about where Matthew gives Hamish the birthday present of the brain scan, and I think it would be nice to explore that more. How much differently do demon brains work from humans, vampires, and witches? Thank you, Michelle.
Interesting.
Shout out, Michelle. And mine's from Laura. When I think of demons, the first thing that comes to mind is geniuses that are bursting with creativity. Their creative energy can sort of go dark, like Christopher Marlowe's jealousy, or go positive with Hamish saving the world's economy. And thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Laura.
So let's dive right into it, shall we?
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Jean.
Sure. I think it's probably appropriate to start out with a few words from Deb about describing her demons. Few seem to understand the creatures, and Sarah had never been able to answer my questions about them. Based on her accounts, demons constituted a criminal underclass. Their superabundance of cleverness and creativity led them to lie, steal, cheat, and even kill, because they felt they could get away with it. Even more troublesome, as far as Sarah was concerned, were the conditions of their birth. There was no telling when or where a demon would crop up, since they were typically born to human parents. They've been described as creative, artistic creatures who walk a tightrope between madness and genius. Rock stars and serial killers was how my aunt described these strange, perplexing creatures. When a demon takes a look, I feel the slight, unnerving pressure of a kiss. And that's how we were introduced to Deb's demons. You know,
What did you guys
I was
think
always
of
curious
that?
about it being a kiss.
Yeah, the nudging sensation. And then she's like, kind of like a kiss. I'm nudging.
Wow.
I'm like, okay. I'm nudging.
I think that was the first sign to me that these demons don't mean any harm.
Right.
Sort of set the stage in that respect.
It's true. And I always wondered about them. I'm like, okay, demons, until we got into Hamish and Agatha, as far as their laments about their place in the world. And it wasn't until maybe later in the book where we kind of got a sense that maybe they were closely related to witches because they could have visions and such.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know.
Well, I think it was really interesting that Deb went with classical mythology rather than the Judeo-Christian view of demons, first and foremost. I mean,
Absolutely. Now, going into the story, I mean, of course, the only demons I ever heard of were the evil type. And then hearing about them as a class or another subset in Adao, I really didn't think anything of it. I didn't have a hard time separating, oh, these are evil, or I didn't think that they were going to be evil. I was actually more worried about Matthew being harmful than demons. But yeah, to have them linked to the classical mythology, finding that out, that sheds a whole new light on it.
Have you guys ever heard that version of Demons before? Because honestly, Deb was my first introduction to it.
Yes.
Mine too.
Yep.
Mine too. I had never heard of it before. I always thought demons as what, Christians thought were evil doers for the devil, supposedly.
Minions?
Yeah. The demons are going to come get you.
Can we recap for our listeners what that classical mythology reference is?
Sure. I mean, the demons that Deb has taken her inspiration from, one of the neat things about them is they really are an unseen presence. They don't have a physical appearance. They're not horned. They're not an angel. No. They're not anything. They're incorporeal spirit guide.
Right.
And they're inspirational. That was the other thing I thought was wonderful about them, was that they were spirits of creativity.
And they're benevolent. They're not malicious. They're not fallen. They're not, where you find in Christianity. They're benevolent, benign beings.
Right. There was nothing malignant about them, unlike the Christian sense of demons. Yeah. And the interesting thing is, too, is they were also associated with Dionysus.
Gotta like that.
Oh, I know. They got the first libation.
Explain.
Oh.
Explain to this non-Christian.
Explain to this non-libation non-worshipper of Dionysus. Dionysus was a god of wine, and usually, it was like when Philippe was up at the temple. There was a certain ceremony you'd go through to honor the god, and one of the things would be you dump the first sip of wine onto the ground for the demons or the god.
Yeah, and offering.
This one's for my dead homies.
not entirely inaccurate.
But that's what it reminds me of.
I would venture a guess that the whole going to a grave and sharing a beer with your dead homie in some ways probably traces all the way back to that.
Sure, shrines, memorials.
Yeah.
The household gods. Now, do we really want to even give a lot of time to the awful, negative Christian view of demons?
Well, it doesn't really play into the story, but I think everyone has that pretty much understanding that that's what it is. Typical ones are.
Yeah. Well, there was one thing about it that I thought was interesting is when you look at the sources of demons in the Bible, and yes, I looked this all up because we all know what my religious training consisted of, thanks to Vatican II. The demons in Enoch were connected to the Nephilim. And that story, the story of the Nephilim and the mating with human women, is really similar to the Anthenoi in the Book of Life. They fornicated with women and birthed giants as tall as 300 cubits. And it was a source of sorrow and sadness on earth. That's the Nephilim.
You know what? I've heard, now that we're talking about it, and we brought this up before, I've heard of the Anthenoi before. Only, and I'm going to bring up Twilight again, they brought it up when Bella was when she was trying to figure out what the hell Edward was. The Anthenoi did come up in that. And yeah, it was her description was a similar description of what you just described, so...
Yeah, and the other interesting thing about the Anthenoi is it was also a word used to describe the royal guard of the Persian emperor, and they called them the Anthenoi because they were always 1,000. You'd kill one, and another one would pop up in their place, and that all ties into the whole, unkillable concept of the Anthenoi as well.
Huh.
So
there you go.
Yeah, I know, and leave it to the Catholics. They were the ones who connected demons and the devil, capital D.
Yeah, well, I don't know. They felt the need for straight linear good and evil type of thing. I don't know. I don't know why, but maybe it was more for control. I think maybe it was to.
Do you think some of it could have been because it was a way to easily explain to an illiterate congregation, make things simple? It's a lot easier
I think
to
so.
explain black and white than shades of gray.
Yeah, shades of gray are much more nuanced and much more androgynous, where the concept of black and white and good and evil is much easier for somebody coming in and saying, okay, don't do that because it is evil. And this will happen to you, and here are the consequences. Yeah, I definitely think that. But yeah, I always wonder why people tend to go either one extreme to another extreme versus the shades of gray in between. So I don't know. That was just curious.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm curious, well, not curious about, but kind of upset about is how demons in this trilogy are just depicted as second-class citizens pretty much the whole way through.
I think that's in some part to Sarah, because Diana reiterates what she knows about them or what she's been told about them. And immediately, I think even myself, in the beginning, I was biased because that's how they're described. And who else counters that? Nobody.
Well, that's how bias begins.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. And I think that was done on purpose for Deb. She put the bias in there. So, I mean, and with all of her characters, when we're reading via Diana, we're like, okay, she's saying this, so it must be true. And Deb automatically planted that bias in your head.
Sure.
Oh, I was going to say, even Agatha, to a certain extent, was kind of airy.
Yes, because she was kind of in two worlds. She was viewing things that she's like, and I see your vampire, and I see him there. Meanwhile, she's kind of in this world trying to relay it to Diana, what it is she's seeing. She had visions. She was one of those visionary ones. And so by the time we got to Hamish, he kind of blew the stereotype out of the water, where his intensity was very different. And
his gift was his gift was logic is what it was, I think.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, though, you look at him as an exception instead of the rule, because
this is true.
Because until later, you don't see any more, brilliant ones. You just see that, Timothy, who's listening, has earbuds in his ears and is not connected to anything. That's kind of your bar.
Yeah. Until we meet Nathaniel, and Sophie kind of explains it, where it's just like, yeah, Nathaniel, when Hamish walks in, he's like, oh, he's like Nathaniel. He's very, focused. I forgot her exact words, but she made categories in which demons fell. So that was good at the end of the Discovery Witches.
I can see the bias because it was intentional, but I think sometimes I hear perceptions that I go a little far. That the demons in general can't get anything done, that they're scatterbrained, that they're
serial killers,
burnouts, nothing, no good qualities.
Yeah. And what was interesting is the buzzword rock stars and serial killers. We never did see a serial killer demon through the whole trilogy, to be honest.
And funny how you can forgive all the killing vampires do, but if a demon does it, oh my gosh, they're a serial killer.
Or the other question becomes, was that an early foreshadowing of the connection between demon blood and blood rage?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now I think that would definitely be something you could look back and say that was foreshadowing. That was because otherwise it's just a gratuitous remark.
True. I think the closest we came to somebody who was really bent in the head was Edward Kelly in Shadow of Night, where he pretty much, especially when he had the Book of Life and he's tearing out pages and talking crazy and, crazy to us, but he was making sense to himself. So.
Right.
Well, I think he falls in the category of demons who would do stuff because they figured they could get away with it. Because he was kind of a con man demon, if you think about it.
Yeah, a little bit of a thief, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit, you think?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think my perception of demons, how it relates to the real world is when I was trying to figure out how to categorize them in my head. I think I heard some people say, oh, they were burnouts, they were whatever. But what my perception was maybe they were on the spectrum. You know what I'm talking about, right? Mm-hmm. Like people, I have a friend, she's brilliant, but she's got Asperger's. And so she won't connect to you but she's just brilliant. The things that comes out of her mouth, and she's thought about it. And yeah, socially, she's a little off, but mm-hmm. But she has a perception of the world that is so uncanny. So that's what I kind of related it to. I mean, what was you guys' perception besides Sarah?
To me, when we first met Timothy, I thought he was like the crazy, brilliant inventor. You know, who's always got a million ideas going through his head, which is why you've got the one red boot, one blue boot, and the earbuds aren't plugged in. And he decided to take apart the microfiche machine for the fun of it. I mean,
right.
I've got some brilliant friends like that who probably are on one end of the spectrum, who, you know, they're the brilliant engineers who have to take apart everything, even the controls in the car as you're sitting there driving somewhere. To me, that's kind of demonic in your everyday life. You know, I'm going to take apart something and figure out how it works right now.
That's what my father had to hide his power tools, because once I figured out how to use a Phillips head screwdriver, I used to take shit apart constantly. Mm-hmm. But so he bought me science kits. I was a weird kid. Don't mind me.
You were MacGyver.
Yeah, well, yeah, and we'll go into that probably in another episode. One of our discussers talked about the Myers-Briggs. I think that was Michelle. Yeah, she brought up the Myers-Briggs personality type, and yeah, I fall right into that personality type where I see something, and if I'm fascinated by it, I want to know everything about it. That's, yeah, a little bit weird like that, which explains my obsession with coding and figuring out how stuff works.
Good correlation. I never connected that until now.
Yeah.
But you're a Timothy. You like to take things apart and figure it out. Only you dress better.
I dress better, and I'm not a hoarder like he is.
Hamish gave me a better understanding of demons, obviously in a positive light, but I really didn't think that much about them in A Discovery of Witches, just because they always seem to be purposely cast aside and forgotten about. And I was admittedly interested in the vampire story of it. So it wasn't until Shadow of Night.
Vampires too. I mean, we got a lot of FaceTime with Marcus and Miriam, and of course Matthew, and then of course Hamish pops up at the end again, and he's almost not welcome. He wasn't supposed to be part of that party. It was like, what are you doing bringing this stuff to me?
Do you think Isabeau sent him?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Yeah, because that was my impression, that Isabeau said, go over there and see what's going on.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Which she would be able to do with him holding the position he did in the KOL. So
yeah, this is true.
But Hamish was a surprise character for Deb to write, so it's interesting that he became so important. Like you said, popped up at the end, and really, he, like you said, always the voice of reason. Said things Diana did not want to hear about, what's to come in 1590.
And he tempered the whole view of demons in a really interesting way, because of what he set, the dichotomy he set up for when we meet Kit Marlowe.
Yes.
Because for the most part, I think the only demon that we see in Shadow of Night who isn't a little bit off is Tommy Harriet.
Right.
Because Edward Kelly is way out there, and, well, we'll talk about Kit's issues in a minute. But
they all seemed very curious to me.
Yes.
All of them. They seemed very interested in what was going on around them.
Mm-hmm. They were very engaged.
Yes.
Even when Agatha was straddling the two worlds, she was still engaged.
Yeah. Like, and artists have to be observers. Mm-hmm. They have to sit back and watch life how as it goes. I mean, that's a successful artist.
The only one that seemed a little less engaged was Sophie, to me. I mean, she was really breezy.
Yeah, she was.
Which is really interesting when you consider she was also an offspring of a weaver. I wonder if that has something to do with it.
Was she an offspring of a weaver?
Yeah, don't forget her dad was a weaver because of the knots that the chess piece was wrapped up in the special knots. That was another clue that he was a weaver.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, with the chess piece that was passed down, because I think that part of the whole weaving thing comes up with Jeffrey, the son of Susanna.
Right.
Right.
She dismisses it as him being in the Navy, but
yeah,
it's a clue.
Yeah, it was a clue. I believe Deb did confirm it at one point in time. Book of Life came out.
Oh, that's good to know. It kind of clears up a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm. But it makes me wonder why Soda was different. I mean, she was a little bit different flavor of a demon to me.
But she was also one that was carrying a witch. I mean, so she was obviously, I don't know, different in that respect too.
True.
I could have been interfering. Carrying her witch, you know how you are when you're pregnant, Angela. You're not quite right anyway. So
is this like a creature version of craving pickles and peanut butter?
And pregnancy brain is not a myth; it's real.
It's not even logical. It's not even logical. Sometimes you're totally sharp, and then sometimes you're just like,
Sophie.
I don't know why I'm crying.
It sounds like menopause brain to me.
Yeah.
That too.
Yeah, that too.
Seems like demons, though, they have, sometimes it's not always gifts that they can cultivate. You know, for instance, Agatha had the visions, and Sophie, making her jugs. It was something that was kind of bestowed upon her, versus, like a Christopher Marlowe, who cultivated his writing, or a Tom Harriot who pursued astronomy.
Hamish, who pursued economics and God knows what else.
Right, a variety of gifts.
And Hamish seemed to be a dabbler of everything. I mean,
a polyglot, I think is the word.
He loved his art. He loved, when they describe his lodge, he was just into the fancy and wonderful, and how Matthew,
put together, and
except Matthew is very simple, so that's why that whole walking into his house kind of offended Matthew a little bit, his sensibilities, while Hamish just loved the fascinating, like they mention his gardens, and I think we have a picture of Deb's inspiration on Pinterest, of the sprawling, beautiful gardens that house has. So
did Hamish strike you as flamboyant?
No.
See, that was the thing. I mean, he had all these flamboyant accoutrements, but he never struck me as a flamboyant. He had the very busy, elaborate hunting folly and the tiered gardens, and he was always very precise in his dress and his holding court at was it the Connaught? I can't remember now, but the one
the Connaught,
with the restaurant and the Battenberg cake.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that to me, in a way, that all says flamboyant, but his actual character was anything but. He was very solid and.
Well, I mean, you have to think about the profession he was in too. So, like, to one set of people, he had to present a certain thing. Mm-hmm. But when he got home, that's why he loved his hunting lodge. He got home and got to indulge his flamboyant things there.
Sure.
You know what I mean? He got to go home and feel at home because look at all these beautiful things and,
His closet had wine.
Yeah. And even, when he bought that Jeep that he was driving around for the hunting, he found the Jeep hilarious and ridiculously masculine. That's why he bought it.
It was very butch.
So,
spade a spade, it was a really butch Jeep.
Yeah. And that's why he thought it was hilarious, because it's not like him. It
didn't go with everything else.
Yeah. So, I totally related to Hamish because I'm very much
people on their toes.
Yeah. I'm very much a dichotomy like that too. Mm-hmm. I'm very girly in a lot of respects, but a lot of things that fascinate me are quote unquote so-called masculine. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So exactly. It's a weird thing, and that's why, I was always called a tomboy growing up. I'm like, I play with Barbies, but they're scientists. Whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I play with Barbies, but mine are mercenaries, so there.
There you go. Yeah.
I found it interesting that demons didn't find out or realize that they were demons until not much later, but later in life. So 10 years, maybe 15 years into their life. And I thought, wow, that would be like waking up and winning the lottery, like Hamish says.
Yeah, or the worst puberty ever.
Oh my God! Could you imagine?
Could you imagine a non-demon parent being faced with that? Oh my Lord!
I don't know. I think I have demon kids, so yeah, I get it.
I think I've heard that from every parent at some point their child's existence.
Yeah, I think both my kids are demons in a lot of respects.
And that's an AE demon, not an E demon.
Yeah. AE demon. I don't know. That was really negotiable. When they were young, I was kind of wondering, but no, definitely. One of them's in theater and the other one is seriously into gaming and
creativity
and audiovisual and graphic design. And so there you go. That explains a lot.
How does Robert figure into all this? I can see where both of your kids get some part of their brain wiring from you.
It's a weird dichotomy because they're both military brats. So a lot of their life was very structured. It had to be because both of us working in the military, they had to be very structured. But as soon as they could break out of that structure, both of them went into creative fields. So Robert, bless him, he puts up with all three of us.
Is he the grounding force in the Grendel family?
Yes, absolutely. He is that.
The thing I'm dying to talk about is Kit.
Oh,
I love
yes.
Kit in a really odd way. Mostly because I think he's an object lesson.
Yes.
And mostly
Kit.
I think a lot of abuse is heaped on him, and there's a lot of knee-jerk judgment about him that upsets me. After many, I mean, of course, I had the initial, oh God, he's bitter and he's bitchy and she's just going to be the hot mess, and he kind of was, but
who isn't bitter and bitchy when they're jealous?
Exactly. And
like you said, though, it was a good departure from Hamish and Adao, and then you really got the same thing, the flip side from Kit in the beginning of Shadow of Night. Yeah. So it's not too different, really.
No, I mean, I think they're equally brilliant, but for the frustration of the unrequited love, I think they're
especially how Deb explained it. People were leery of Hamish and his motives and telling Diana, and she said, look, how would you feel if your best friend of years brought around this woman who he's known for 40 days and his whole life is going to change? How would you react? Yeah. And the same thing goes for Kit, bringing Matthew or Diana back to 1590.
Yeah, and saying, hey, this is my wife.
Right.
And she's a witch and she's a problem. And it was just like, in a way, it was like when he brought her home to Isabel, only difference was a mother's love is different than, I don't know whether I want to call it. Kid is kind of, it's platonic, but a lover's kind of love. I mean, you're not going to get the same sort of forgiveness and rational thinking that you might get with a mother.
Another thing jarring probably for Kit was he really thought he knew Matthew, and Matthew at the time did not think very highly of witches.
True.
So he's like, do I even know you? What the hell's going on? Somebody's, taken his brain and wrecked it. And that comes into play when we see later with Louisa. It's like she cast a spell on him. She did something to him. This is not the Matthew I know. So it makes sense in that way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I love how Deb took the creations of when you look at Marlowe's writing, some of them, all right, maybe I've read this series way too many times, but some of them do sound like things that were written for Matthew. There's lines in Faustus. There's some of his poetry. It's like, it's heartbreaking is what it is when you put it in the context of this trilogy.
Unrequited love is powerful.
Very.
And very powerful. And
throw some obsession into that mix and it gets scary.
I'd like to think that most of us have gone through that and
would have some
could
empathy,
empathize.
yes.
Yeah. And could see that, when someone you love and someone you thought maybe you had a shot at all of a sudden shows up with somebody else, you get obsessive, you get stupid. Maybe not now as adults, but remember you as a teenager, how you would get. And all of a sudden that other person becomes number one on your enemies list.
or
so
takes up all of your focus.
Yeah.
And the other thing is too, is you have to remember that they were all quite young. I mean, I think Kit would have probably been in his early 20s because he was maybe late 20s because he was dead before he was 30.
Right.
So yeah, probably late 20s.
I mean, these people aren't all that old. Well, except for Matthew, but that's for entirely different reasons. Another thing that came up in discussions, in discussion groups probably a while ago, was Deb fleshed out for us a connection between demon DNA and mental illness and blood rage, which was really quite interesting, especially the mental illness connection with the demon DNA. And I think that also plays in with how we were talking about Asperger's and being on the spectrum, and talking about Kit and his, it was almost his obsessive love. It was almost like OCD.
Yeah, I was going to, OCD and maybe a little ADD or ADHD is what they call it now. But when I was a kid, they called it ADD.
I think Matthew's a little ADD too.
Which would explain later when they said he was part demon. Yeah. So,
and that's another interesting thing. It takes the demon DNA actually ends up being quite special. Maybe not necessarily in the best way when it comes to blood rage, but
it's at the crux of a lot of matters.
Yeah, definitely.
I was always fascinated with Matthew. In fact, I definitely thought he was a demon just because he was precocious. And then I reread the passage when he's being made by Isabeau, and she says he was a human that took to blood, or he didn't have a problem with it. So she said human, so obviously I knew he wasn't a demon. But you always kind of wondered in the back of your mind, why was he so precocious and demon-like and forgiving of demons and having a penchant for demons?
And drawn to them.
Well, now, demons always followed Diana, too. Maybe they saw part of themselves in her.
Maybe they sensed the Weaver in her.
Well, maybe the Weaver or maybe the demon in her.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't remember if we got all the way to the connection that the Weaver, there was demon DNA involved in the Weaver.
Well, not in this episode, but we've always talked about it.
Yeah, I mean, that's been our theory, I guess.
Well, yeah. And in the end, I just thought that was brilliant. It tied everything up so neatly, and you can tell that was her plan the whole way. Looking back at it, hindsight being 2020. In
retrospect, it was like, God, it was a horse, not a zebra.
Yeah, yeah, this is true.
Well, here's a question. I mean, we've ran across a lot of historical figures as we've gotten through this trilogy. I mean, who else has struck you as maybe having some demon blood? Here's another thing. Gerbert certainly had a predilection for demons, as did Domenico. Domenico had that demon girlfriend in Book of Life, which I've always had my thoughts about Domenico and perhaps him being more similar to Matthew than he'd care to admit.
I always thought that was maybe because, in mating selection, if you're going to go into Darwinism, you tend to seek out
seeks like
something to advance. Well, seeks like, or like seeks opposite to maybe advance the species.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. So I always thought maybe it was something to do with that. Maybe like if Gerbert was fascinated with demons or Domenico was fascinated with demons, maybe they didn't know why they were drawn to them. Maybe that was just some Darwinism flying in there where it's like, hey, we're going to advance this species and this is what's going to happen. I don't know.
Well, and going back to Domenico again, and his close friendship, shall we say, with Louisa, who, of course, we find out after the fact has probably got even more demon blood in her than Matthew does, given how far off the rails she gets.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's something there that I hope Deb will flesh out in the future with Domenico, because he was a character that fascinated me, and Discovery of Witches, and then when we came back to him in the Book of Life, it was too short and certainly not enough in depth. It was more questions than answers to me.
Right.
And he didn't seem like the badass she made him out to be in the Discovery of Witches, so I'm just perplexed.
Yeah, maybe she couldn't get to that. Like I said before, the fourth book wouldn't have hurt anything.
I agree.
But, that's what happens when you say, hey, I'm going to do a trilogy, and you don't want to write a 800, 900.
I think her editor didn't want her to write a 900-page
book. I would have read it.
I would have too. But she always described her writing journey as knowing what the destination is, but not knowing how she was going to get there. So kind of using that analogy, you want to go from New York to California, and you plan to stop in all the Colorado and the Grand Canyon. And sometimes you just don't have time. You got to bypass it, even though you told everyone you were going to.
You can't see that big old twine ball.
Right.
You're not going to stand in four corners and drink a beer in 4 states.
Right. Or you're not going to stop by Lynchburg, Tennessee, and visit the Jack Daniels distillery, and we don't have time.
No Tupperware Museum on this itinerary.
No. No Mall of Americas either. Sorry.
I think they're both in Minneapolis, too, come to think of it. But Prince's House will never, the Paisley Park will never be taken off the itinerary.
No, we will stop. Damn it. Speaking of demons.
Yep.
Who has impressed me as being a demon?
Besides Prince. We know that's your answer.
Right.
Besides Prince, because we know that's true.
Steve Jobs.
Absolutely.
I would agree.
Yeah.
He was probably more of a kid-type demon because he was sort of surly.
Yeah, very.
Well, and a Hamish-type demon.
True.
Maybe. But he would get obsessive.
Albert Einstein.
Yes.
He was kind of a Timothy demon in a way. Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
But who today?
Angela, any ideas?
I'm just trying to think of someone who has, musical gift, like, Itzhak Perlman or Yo-Yo Ma. I mean, I don't know it's not, something intellectual, but anyone with an intense musical gift, too, I picture as a demon.
And I can't really think of many modern-day composers, living composers, I should say, that would necessarily fit that bill.
Right. They don't seem to be as revered and well known as they were back in the day, too. But no, there's certainly not a Mozart or today.
I think Mozart was a demon, but
I think it would present itself differently today. Like the dude who did Hamilton, total demon.
Oh God, yeah,
yeah. Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, who picks up a Hamilton biography and goes, you know what? All of a sudden, all these raps started jumping out at me. Yeah.
Make a musical out of it.
I mean, he started rapping to the book, basically.
Which is amazing. Tupac.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
He may be a rapper, but it was pure poetry.
Well, remember when Straight Outta Compton came out, too? We swore they were all demons.
Yeah.
Dr. Dre.
Dr. Dre and Cube and Eazy-E.
Not Jay-Z. Jay-Z's not a demon.
No.
No. No, I could see Annie DeFranco being a demon.
Yeah.
Sometimes, or Leonard Cohen was definitely a demon. Well.
Oh, R.I.P.
Yeah. That made Gene sad.
Don't make Gene sad.
Well, 2016 has made us sad in that respect.
David Bowie was another demon because everything he did was incredibly creative, and he was so creative in so many fields. You don't see nearly as many. Patti Smith is another one who's creative in many fields. Probably even more so than Annie DeFranco, I think. I mean, with her poetry.
I think Jerry Bruckheimer.
Yeah, more so Jerry Bruckheimer than, oh God, who's the other one I'm thinking of?
I feel like creativity is going to spike here soon.
It has to.
Well,
Josh Whedon.
Josh Whedon.
Demon.
Oh, Joss Whedon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because after the recent election, we won't go into it, but I feel like a lot of people will have a lot of creative things to say.
I do too.
In different ways.
People need an outlet and a positive outlet, and I think you're totally right.
And a hopeful outlet.
We'll see a spike.
We will definitely see a spike because I think people were too complacent for a while. They thought everything was life, and that, in my opinion, kind of explains the lack of musical genius that's happened in the last decade.
Yes, I would agree.
So,
I mean, to go all the way back to the founding of our country, I mean, those founding fathers and the patriots, they took matters into their own hands, and look at, they were demons, for sure.
Ben Franklin, maybe?
yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, because he seemed to have the many, him and Thomas Jefferson, I would say, were the two demons in that bunch. Although Matthew would disagree about Thomas Jefferson, I think.
He would. He said he was always full of words. Didn't sound to value those words.
Well, I'm thinking of it from the perspective of he was interested in so many things. I mean, from being a vintner to inventing things to creating a university. Busy guy. But
my point was that they took matters into their own hands. They created something. They didn't wait for someone else to do it. And I think that's what a lesson people have learned recently is it starts with yourself.
Well,
be the change.
I hope people start creating mini conventicles. And, and like we were talking about, if what you believe in is community, helping out your community, maybe go out and help your community become a community with the people around you. Don't expect, people to fix things for you. You have to fix it. And that was a big lesson with a conventicle. Hey, we're going to do this thing. We're going to protect our own. We're going to watch out for each other. And I think that needs to happen again. And I believe it will.
Yeah,
I do too.
It's going to start. It'll be in a million little ways.
Yes.
You can't not have hope.
This is true.
This is very true.
I mean, this is true. I mean, we watched even with our own friend group, we watched a varied of emotions. What else are you going to do? It's done. We're going to go out and create, and we're going to go out and talk to our neighbors. And be kind. What else can you do?
And make different friends and
make different friends and talk to different people.
Friends.
Yes, and probably be more open to different points of view.
And so endeth the lesson.
God,
go forth in peace.
Hang on, you guys help me down off of this freaking.
I was going to say, did you hear that? Did you hear the thud?
That was the pulpit. don't trip getting down from the pulpit there, Val.
Oh my God! Thank God I'm not drinking because I'd fall on my face. This is a pretty high soapbox I got myself on.
It's all
well,
good.
what do you want to do?
It's all good.
It's good. It's good. We'll survive. We'll be
demons.
Okay.
I have to.
Absolutely.
Why are we demons?
Why are we demons? Oh, yeah. Let me read that email first from Miss Allie. Okay. This is from Allie, one of our discussers, our yogini, our friend. She says, "Hey, loves. I can't wait to listen to the new podcast. I probably won't get to it until tomorrow, but I'm pumped. Waiting will be so hard. So, demons. Having been raised in a Christian home, demons were pretty much the only supernatural things that I was told were real. No witches, ghosts, vampires, etc. But the demons I was told about, they were the devil's minions. Hey, we just talked about that. The ugly, conniving, evil creatures who possess souls and did the devil's work. When I first started reading A Discovery of Witches, my first thought was, demons with an A? Maybe they're not what I'm thinking of. Maybe it's not even pronounced the same. Well, one of those was correct. Deb's demons aren't at all what I had always been taught. They're fun, crazy, eclectic, and scatterbrained. I always think of Albert Einstein with his genius ideas and crazy hair. Like so many other things, this is just one more reason that I love Deb. Her characters challenge the idea of the norm, what we think something is. She always finds a way to turn it around and make it something so much better. Of course, with all of that said, every time I mention the demons, referring to you three, in front of my mom, her face clouds over and she starts going on the religious defensive. If only she read novels. Thanks, ladies. Can't wait to see what's next. Love, Allie. Thanks, Allie.
Thank you.
Oh, so, yeah, let's get into that story. why we call ourselves the Demons. I would like to start out that knowing the three of us like we do, we tend to go for the underdog, don't we? Always. We're the underdog rooters. And so it's like, Demons, yes. But that's not how it started. It started in the discussion group when we were doing Armitage for Claremont, and we first came out, and we were hesitant to let people know who we were. We weren't, having the jobs that we have, and you don't want to be associated with a fan casting site if somebody Googles your name. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if a juror decides to get online, even though they're instructed not to, and finds out one of the attorneys is also running a fangirl site, it's not a good thing.
It's not a good thing. So, we put up these links, and these links would show up, and people would ask, well, who did this website? Who did this? Who put this together? And our answer was always Demons. Yep.
The Demons did it.
The Demons did it, and we'd leave it at that. And we're like, I kind of like that. I like being known as the Demons. So for the longest time, I'd say for a good 3 years before we actually came out of our demon closet, we were pretty much anonymous.
We've only come out of our demon closet with Demons Discussed, really. I mean, to see our names on our cover photo, and
before that it was kind of an open secret in portions of the fandom, but now our names are out there. I mean, our names are always on our website. If you dug deep enough, you could find out who we were, but we didn't put it out there by saying it all the time. And I mean, the Demons sort of suits what we do. I mean, we have a million interests and a million, talents, I guess.
And between the three of us, we're three different sorts of demons, like we discussed earlier.
It all started, though, when you were building our very first website. We had called you the Doctor of Demonosity, and that's kind of a term we coined for the feverish activity and the genius and everything behind, that.
Yeah. And to be fair, when I build a website and I get into the coding part and I have to shut everything out. And I think that's very demonic in a way. You're like the elves and the shoemaker too, though, because we also call you the vampire demon because you have different opposite hours of us, basically. But I go to bed and I wake up to creations like the shoemaker does. It's like, I made this, and this. Okay, I'm going to bed. Bye. I'll talk to you guys when I wake up.
Or you wake up in the middle of the night with insomnia and you decide to look online and it's like, oh my Lord, what is she doing now?
You're right.
I go a little crazy sometimes. Yeah. And, Angela, the way she searches into things, and she amazes me. And then Jean with... I can't even wrap my head around half the things you do, Jean.
I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I'd be the most scattered of the demons, I think, because my interests are all over the place all the time, and my brain's 4 steps ahead of where my mouth is half the time.
Your mouth catches up eventually, though.
I just think I'm probably the most scattered of the three of us, to tell you the truth.
Angela's the most focused, I think.
I don't know. Maybe.
You do a better job of portraying that. We'll say that.
Yeah. That's like when me and Jean start going on a fancy, like when we were going to launch this podcast, and right before we uploaded it, and Jean and I were all like, I'm kind of scared, you guys. And Angela was the one to come in and say, snap out of it.
Cher from, God, what's the name of that movie?
Moonstruck.
I
was going to say Moonlight.
Yeah. Put it this way. It's a curse and a blessing. I am very non-emotional, and sometimes I miss the cue of when I'm supposed to comfort somebody.
You're the Libra.
That's true. Very true.
Yeah. I won't say I'm non-emotional, but I don't portray emotion. I tend to. But when I do it, boy, it comes out. So...
I'm the Scorpio. It is what it is.
Yes.
And it takes me and Angela to reel you back sometimes.
Oh, yeah. And I apologize every time. And I realize it as it's happening, as it spirals out of control every time.
But it's too late. It's already out of your mouth. You can't reel it back.
All I can do is apologize and be sincere about it.
That's all you can do. All right, ladies, you want to wrap this up? We can end it here, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to us again, and we always want to hear from you. Give us a shout out.
Absolutely.
Tell us what you want us to look into, explore.
Can't be more serious about that. I mean, we already have some great topics that we're going to explore.
I know. 2017 is shaping up to be a good year, at least in the demon front.
Good.
Right, and that's all based on discusser feedback.
Yeah, thank you, discussers. Thank you. We can, I'll touch on how you can become a discusser. But for now, I'm going to tell you all to listen and subscribe to this podcast wherever it is you listen to podcasts. And I'm going to add something else. Look, we've been around for a while. You've been listening to us. We've been the voices in your head for a minute. If you like what you hear, how about logging into iTunes and rating us? And how about leaving a good review? That would be great. That would help us get seen and help put gas in our tanks. And you know what? I'll read your review if it's great. I'll read it if it's bad. Be like, why do you hate us? But no, I'll read it if it's great. So yeah, please rate and review us on iTunes if you like what you're hearing. Leave comments in the show notes. There's a form there, and you can sign up to be a discusser while you're doing that. But I'll go deeper into becoming a discusser. Contact us on social media, Demons Discuss and Demons Domain. Visit demonsdiscuss.com. It takes you straight to our podcast page, and the form to be a discusser is there. It's a short form. All you need to do is add your name and your email address and send it in, and then you have to type in the code to prove that you're a human or a demon or a witch or a vampire, a sentient creature. So, yeah, fill out that form and you can become a discusser. And you can send us your ideas. Like, we've received so many ideas that the three of us have been talking about. I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be a great episode. And it's like, but we don't have a whole lot of time to flesh it out right now, but let's put it on the back burner for now. And of course, see everything we are up to at our home base. That is demonsdomain.com. You can see our posts. If you go to master post list, you can see every single post we got going on there. Master post list will list the current giveaways.
And send you to our podcast if you can't find it.
If you can't find it, it'll send you, I have podcast links everywhere. If you can't find the podcast link, just look around. You'll find something. Click something. It'll say podcast. Click it. You'll get there. You can also email us directly if you can't be bothered by forums at demonsdiscuss@gmail.com. And that's all I have for you. Ready to end this episode, guys?
Yes.
Let's do it.
You want to sing the song? Farewell.
Like song?
Wait a minute. We didn't rehearse this.
No, I'm kidding.
Today I'm channeling Carol Burnett closing. The time has come.
Oh, yeah. Was she sweeping?
Yes.
That's great. All right. Goodbye, audience.
Goodbye, audience, and thank you.
Until next time.
Till next time.
Mwah.
I love the kiss.
Well, demons kiss.
They do. A nudging kiss. All right, we're going. Bye, guys.